Hyderabad, at least, and I'm sure this is the case in many other cities, is that when you start working on the ground, when you start engaging with real life problems, you end up willy-nilly doing certain things that you may not actually even know what they mean. It's always leading into complicated pathways. And so one of the things that I wanted to be shared here is the work of Save Our Urban Lakes, which is a large community which has emerged in the last 3 years in Hyderabad. To me, as an academic geographer, there's also a very interesting geography to this. The whole community of Save Our Urban Lakes begins with some really, really old lake conservation activists, biodiversity conservation activists of Hyderabad. And then there's a huge young population that steps in, and a lot of it is concentrated around Serlingampalli area. Now, Serlingampalli area in Hyderabad is the area where the maximum amount of real estate development has happened in the last 20 years. Property rates have increased hundreds of times overnight. People who were selling 1 acre of land for 50,000 rupees were selling it at 10 lakh rupees an acre, 20 lakh rupees an acre, and then it just goes on and on and on. But in the process, what has also happened is that we have built a world-class city without an underground sewage system. We really have no way of dealing with the sewage that is generated in the high-tech city area. So what we do is something very simple. We just dump it into the nearest stormwater drain. And therefore, that stormwater drain then goes and fills up the nearest water body. So all our lakes have become cesspools, and all lakefronts have become big battlegrounds for real estate interests. In the process, what has also happened is that a large number of customary use practices have been completely displaced, like fishermen, washermen, cattle owners, cultivators. Hyderabad has had this practice of officially granting permissions to people to cultivate in the foreshore of water bodies. That practice, while it continued for some time and then disappeared, has then somehow turned into property claims, which then becomes real estate deals. So I'm going to ask Rajkumar Thakur, who has been working with Save Our Urban Lakes for the last several years, has been fighting a number of legal cases, and he's going to be showing you 2 or 3 actual case studies of water bodies which have been encroached upon.
I'm Rajkumar Singh, presently co-convener of SOUL, Save Our Urban Lakes. I would like to put before you how 100-year-old, 200-year-old lakes have vanished in just 10 years. How it is very easy to kill a lake just in 10 years or 5 years. Many of you know that during the Nizam period, somewhere around in the year 1906, 1908, there was a huge flooding of Musi River. There's a Musi River. Hyderabad has an excellent, a very grand river known as Musi River. Now it's Musi Nala. It's not a river, polluted Nala, carrying sewage water, drainage water to other side of the city. And at that time, the then Nizam brought in our famous engineer, Sir Vishwesharaya, to plan this flooding of Hyderabad city. And during that period, number of water bodies, tanks were constructed, they were dug up, and with 2 purposes. One for agriculture, the other one for drinking, to serve drinking water needs of the local area residents. Now, these lakes, now you know Hyderabad is famous for its biryani, but originally it's famous for its lakes. Hyderabad is a city of lakes, and Hyderabad is city of pearls. Hyderabad is city of biryani. But what happened? The biryani is there, the pearls are there, but what about the water bodies? Now, as we see today, Hyderabad is famous for its sewage kuntas, drainage kuntas. Somewhere hundreds of, wherever you go, you just peep through your window from an aeroplane, you see number of sewage pits in and around Hyderabad. Now what happened to this? Simple reason. The population grew in Hyderabad. Many people from outside, all over the country came here, settled there. And the requirement for land increased. Now everyone started to own house, flats, and the builders naturally, they get these lands near the water bodies. And Hyderabad is not originally, there are not many rivers or lakes. Always these tanks are not filled with water. Now in the summer season, the water recedes, and the rainy season, water fills up. So during the summer season, man goes into the lake, dumps mud, construct an apartment, building complex. Now when there is a lot of rain and flooding, the whole cellar area, stilth area is filled up with water. All the vehicles are submerged in the cellar, are submerged in the water. So this has been happening every time this flooding is going on, and every time there is a summer season. Even today, as a few of my Telugu friends might have seen in the TV9, a local MLA has encroached into a graveyard. He allotted his MLA funds for constructing a compound wall, stating it as a graveyard, which doesn't exist at all. So land has a lot of demand. Well, my friend was telling that overnight the land rates which were somewhere around 50,000, 1 lakh rupees, turned into the government rate of land is somewhere around 1 crore, 1 crore 50,000. And imagine the private, unofficial rates. It runs into 10 crores, 15 crores per acre. So these water bodies, we started with Madam Jashwin, Dr. Jashwin Jairat pulling us all into the lakes. I'm a human rights activist, but I was dragged and pulled into this dirty pond to save it. Okay, there are a number of NGOs fighting for protection of water bodies. Now, initially we didn't know, and at a very young age, I very remember, just adjacent to us, we have a Hussain Sagar lake. We used to play in that lake. I think it's in late 70s and early 80s. We didn't know. At that time, I think that it was very pure and very good. We used to swim in it. But today, we don't even try to go on that side of the lake, water body. We know it's highly polluted, highly contaminated with industrial heavy metals, industrial pollutants, sewage, and everything. So it's a dangerous situation in Hyderabad. And surprisingly, the government wants the people to get water from Krishna River and Godavari River, whereas we have sufficient water in and around Hyderabad. If we protect our lakes, we don't need to get water from somewhere else. We have an excellent, this year we had an excellent rainfall also. We have a good groundwater table. Of course, now it's getting polluted. Madam was telling about the contamination levels, it didn't study in. We had some organization was studying about the quality of water in Hyderabad that's being supplied by Metro Water Works. 80% of the water is polluted. 80%, we are drinking it. We don't have any other option. I think we got immune to that contamination and we are surviving. Tomorrow someone gives us a fresh water or fresh oxygen, we are going to die with some disease. It's got into our DNA. Now, I will show you how these lakes are being encroached. Just a small PowerPoint presentation. And this particular lake is known as a Lingam Kunta. One side you can see a temple. It's a Kunta. Kunta means a small pond, something like a pond. It's a 13-acre pond. We see a temple other side. Now, the government is showing that, Hyderabad Metro Waterworks is showing that there is a temple in the lake. What's wrong if we construct a STP in the lake, treat the water body, and treat the sewage water, and put the same water into the lake? Now, the requirement of the Metro Waterworks was somewhere around 15 acres. The lake is 13 acres. And I don't know where will they send the treated water. I had to approach, like sir said, Selingampalli is where we have this high-tech city, right? But we do not have, I come from that Selingampalli area, we do not have a sewerage treatment plant, or we don't have underground drainage system at all. Shockingly, we don't have any underground drainage system, and each and every apartment, every building just throws their sewage, throw their drainage into a nearby floodwater nala, which carries it into a nearby water body. Today, no water body is fit for, water is fit for drinking. We can't eat fish from that water bodies. People stopped fishing there. Water, almost there are 6 lakes where these STPs are being constructed with 200 crore rupees. Now I have just met one friend who says these STPs are nothing but a kind of just mixing the water, just churning it and putting the same water into the water body. There is no quality check. I had approached the High Court of Andhra Pradesh regarding this STPs. The court granted a stay and it said, after treating the water, you have to maintain a daily register, daily morning and evening. You put each and every parameter that you are testing it and the water which is coming, quality of the water which comes in and quality of water which goes out. Till date, it happened in 2010. There's a photograph of 2010. Till date, nothing of this, that thing has happened. No one is interested. No one in the government is interested. We are fighting. So, very importantly, tomorrow, maybe in near future, we have to leave the city of Hyderabad. And many of you know, Hyderabad, Patancheru is just adjacent, that's the outskirts of Hyderabad. Patancheru is one of the top 10 most polluted places in the world. I think that will infect the Hyderabad also. And tomorrow we can claim that Hyderabad is also one of the highly polluted cities in the world. So this is Lingamkutta where this mud has been dumped and the Waterworks department wants to construct an STP. So it's not only private individuals who are encroaching into water bodies, polluting it and exploiting it. And this is also same scene where you can see water and mud both and bund also. These are small hutments which have come up on the bund. Land usage is being converted here illegally, of course. See, this is the work of an STP in progress, which has been stayed, but at the cost of the water bond. Now, this is a 30 million liter sewerage treatment plant, illegally handed over. Now, surprisingly, when we went to the court, the Waterworks says, we are not constructing the STP in the water body. We are constructing the STP near the Lingamkutta lake. But they are doing it in the, this photograph clearly shows they are doing it in the water body. So, you can see this complex. This complex is finished and you will be surprised to know that this building has been constructed on a inlet lana to Gangaram Cheru. The water which comes into Gangaram Peda Cheru, it's a big water body. It has been constructed on the Nala. High Court said this is illegal, you have to demolish it. And recently, that person had got it inaugurated and a bar and a restaurant, 3-star I think, so bar and restaurant has started functioning in that building. Again, we have to run to the High Court to get it straight. Everyone knows it's illegal. This is Patel Cheru, what I have shown you. Now see these apartments which have come up in the lake. Just not on the lake bed area, exactly inside the lake, after dumping mud and boulders in the lake. See, we can see the compound wall and huge dumping of mud. They raise the FTL full tank level and start constructing apartments. So this is Gangaram Pedacheru, very big tank. This excellent photograph of an building constructed by an IPS officer, police officer. And whenever we try to even go near it, we have a excellent case booked against us. So last year, due to this heavy flooding, this compound wall automatically fell down. So there is some natural godly intervention in this matter where we failed. So you can see it's in the water body. Everyone knows it. No action. These are another duplex houses by a person who is very rich, who was a contestant in local elections of Serlingampalli. You can see the FTL stone. He says, okay, there is FTL stone, I will construct it. Who is going to object me? See, this is happening. Encroachment of Nala. Now, why is there a lot of flooding in the apartments in local colonies is they encroach the Nala. They obstruct the free flow of water. Now, when you stop the water, it moves back. right? It enters into the local colonies, flood them. See, say Statue of Liberty, something like that, on a nala. And they said this one Irla Cheru, it's a very big water body which doesn't come in the Huda master plan. It's not shown in the master plan. This case is pending in the High Court. And when I filed a public interest litigation that this water body is being encroached, writ petition, not appeal, this encroach, and some person is encroaching this water body. Surprisingly, I am not commenting on the judiciary, but the case is being kept pending for the reason that what are you, who are you, why are you bringing this matter to us, what is your earning, how much you are earning every month, every year. See, these are the questions. I may be a blackmailer, I may be a land grabber, but when I take a issue to the court, they shouldn't ask me who are you. They should see whether that is right or wrong. Right? We have Valmiki, dacoit, who had written a Ramayana. Right? But I am not a Valmiki. I am a Valmiki, but I am not writing a Ramayana, but I am attempting to write something, doing something good. But since past 8 months, it has been kept waiting, and they want me to submit all the documents which I have been doing to it, but it's not reaching the in the list. So this is another Chakali Seru. Chakali means in the Telugu washerman. There used to be a lot of washermen. This Cheru is lying very near to my house. Now this whole lake has been converted into Raju Swagruha area. Big apartments constructed by government of Andhra Pradesh. Complete encroachment, and they have laid a road from center of the lake. They want to beautify it. I don't know why they want to beautify it. On other side they encroach it. They put all this sewage drainage into it, but they want to put beautiful plants. See this is Gopi Cheru, another Cheru, dumped. You can't see water there. See, lot of excavation work going on in the lake body itself. Same story of encroachments. We have lot of boulders in Banjara Hills area. You carry them, you have a very good place in around Serilingampalli, just go there and dump into a lake. See, those boulders do not belong to our Serilingampalli area. They belong to Banjara Hills or some high-rise area. See, you can see buffaloes, and there is an old newspaper photograph. Khana met Mondikunta. The excellent story of this Mondikunta. A film actor has constructed a convention center there in the Mondikunta lake. This Khana met Mondikunta lake. So he hires it for 1 crore rupees per show, per program. It's in the lake. This is Bachukunta. You can see the compound wall in the lake. See another building this side. The green part is the water body. It has been, this Bachukunta is not there in our lake list. Malaya Kunta is not there in the lake list. You can see excellent building structures. This is again in the water body, Malaya Kunta. These are all kuntas are small ponds, somewhere 5-acre ponds, 10-acre ponds. See, this is also another water body, Malaya Kunta. This is Medla Cheru. I think most of you have heard about Alien Space Station. Alien Space Station, it's a 30-floor, multi-floor complex. It's being constructed in the lake, Medla Cheru. I'll show you. And you are seeing these, some constructions near the water body. Actually, those are graves. Those were graves which have been demolished, and these small structures have been raised, and Shivalingams were put on it. And people like you and me, when we go there, we feel that it's something like Kisara. Lot of Shivangas, and people start going there and putting some flowers, some water on that one. They didn't know that they are all graves there. So the Alien Space Station did excellent marketing work, promoted their apartment, and constructed the whole 30-floor building in the water body. And this has been confirmed not by me, by the Revenue Department as well as Irrigation Department. Till date, no action taken. We have 3 issues: dangers to a water body, encroachments, pollution, and exploitation. We are fighting for them. We have taken a lot of help from Mr. Anand, he has given lot of information, geographical information, where these lakes are. And the Saul presented the whole 3,000 plus lakes, list of lakes to the government. The government of Andhra Pradesh doesn't have where these lakes are. They don't even know the names of the lakes. So Saul is proud to give them all the details of lakes and water bodies. This is where we stand. We are fighting for, not for us, but for our children to save these water bodies. Otherwise, someday we have to leave Hyderabad and start a new city to pollute it again. Thank you.
There are a number of issues here that need to be discussed. If people have any quick questions, you can ask. But I want to just frame the whole issue very quickly for everyone. At least from my perspective, the water bodies case in Hyderabad is an excellent case of how do we figure out how to repurpose the resources that we have as commons. Basically, what's happening here is that lands, lakes, which could be held privately, could be held publicly by the state, the ownership didn't really matter, but access to them, use of those resources was always multiples. The washermen would go there, the cattle breeders would go there, the cultivators would go there, the potter would go there and get the clay from it, and so on and so forth, right? All of those have been marginalized. They've been completely moved out of that land. And now what happens is that the battle boils down to trying to figure out what is the full tank level, because that's the only thing that the administration would understand. But the full tank level as a boundary line is something that, while knowing that that's the line which is the most important one to talk about property, the government also doesn't want to talk about the property line. It's not interested in that, because so long as it's open, gray, really difficult to pin it down, it's possible to go through a whole lot of social negotiations. You can settle it through political power, you can settle it through caste power, you can settle it through all sorts of ways, except the bourgeois liberal property rules. And I think that's the process through which actually new capital is being produced in Hyderabad city, new uses are being produced in the city, new kinds of constructions and so on and so forth are emerging. Now, that being the case, the struggle, I think, can actually be pushed in a new direction, where we say that, look, it doesn't really matter who owns it. It doesn't really matter where exactly the full tank level is, because that can never really be fixed. The way in which we should think about it is to try and see how we can recreate the commons, right, as something that's away from the whole discourse of property boundaries. It doesn't matter who owns the land between the full tank level and the water boundary, but what are we using it for? And I think that actually opens up all sorts of challenges for us in terms of mapping, in terms of creating data, so on and so forth. For me, the reason why the water bodies issue has been of great interest and importance is because it's one instance where there's great possibility for doing conceptual work. If we take that water and waste are circulatory systems that have to pass through the city, then how do we actually map them? What are the interconnected networks and systems? How do we pin them down? And then how do we pin down the claims that multiple social groups have on those circulatory systems? At what point of time, who has what kind of claim? The simple issue here in a city like Hyderabad is that we let out our sewage, and once we let it out, it doesn't concern us. It's out. We throw out our waste onto the city, onto the streets. We know that somebody is going to pick it up. It's not us. And that usually happens to be certain groups of people. I mean, Hyderabad city has been seeing every year dozens of people actually dying in sewage manholes. It's horrible, ugly work. People should not be doing it. But that's the only work that's available to certain groups of people. And it's unsafe, it's dangerous, but they do it and they die. Every year we have at least a dozen deaths of sewage workers. So all these things are interconnected, and that's the way we've been trying to look at it.
This combination, how capability relates so I don't know your name.
Rajkumar Singh.
Rajkumar. There were two interesting cases in Bangalore where the citizens were able to reclaim these two good lakes. Have you gone to their case studies?
Restored the lakes completely out of pollution and completely out of garbage dump yard. And we were studying cases across even Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, Punjab also, Delhi, Punjab, where taking the example of those people, we started working on it, and we don't say we are 100% successful or we are really very effective in protecting the water bodies and restoring them also.
All people, even through the network, petitions can be signed. You can sign the petition on the computer itself, and they can be presented. Instead of going as a small group, you could go, people involved in that locality, and especially you should involve the ladies more, I suppose, in this kind of work, because they will be more effective. Because once the lakes are initially able to fight for them, then to keep up whatever has been restored, they have a very large role to play. I don't know whether
It's bad. I feel very bad, but it was in a group also, association.
How to ensure that our urban commons are intact and the communities that use the urban commons get to do so in the future. So my question is regarding the mapping or the listing that you said that you presented to the state. So how did you actually go about with the mapping, the process, and how did you make it public if you did, and how did you involve the multiple actors that are actually right now using the urban commons?
What we were doing is we were identifying the water bodies using the local revenue records and local people who were there. They used to say that there was a kunta here. Now it's a big building and or apartment. So we studied, we took information from all the people. As I said, I'm not an individual. We are hundreds of organizing. And I come from Serlingampalli area. That's the reason why I put only Serlingampalli. Like me, there are many people who gave the information to the SOL. The SOL presented to the government. So we gathered information in our areas and pull it in the SOL platform and presented it. And regarding the mapping and of the FTLs and other lakes and nalas, Mr. Anand.
The trouble in Andhra Pradesh, and I'm sure it plays out differently in different cities, nobody really knows who is supposed to be accountable for water bodies. For the simple reason that in the rural areas, water bodies would fall broadly under the irrigation department, and they're supposed to maintain them and so on and so forth. Or if they're really small, it will go into the Panchayati Raj department because it's related to agriculture. But in an urban context, the Panchayati Raj department is not very active. They don't have the powers, so it's practically non-existent. So then who looks after it? The revenue department, just the revenue function, looks at water bodies as survey numbers, right? It's land with some water on it. You remove the water, it simply becomes land, right? That's the attitude with which they look at it. Now, what has been going on over the last 30 years is that different departments keep pushing the responsibility for maintaining knowledge over water bodies in the urban context from one to the other. Nobody really takes responsibility. This is my baby. So one could say that has resulted in the negligence of the water bodies, bad maintenance, and so on and so forth. But the worst damage actually is that the knowledge is completely disintegrated. Now nobody has the maps. Now nobody has the memoirs, right? That's the present situation. What we have done from Hyderabad Urban Lab is to take the satellite image and take the digital elevation modeling of the city and then run an algorithm on it to create maps of the catchments and the stream paths. Now that data is publicly available. Now that data can be helpful in understanding what are the linkages. But the other set of data that is working here is the data that is produced by National Institute of Rural Development first for the Rangareddy district and for Hyderabad. Then the Urban Development Authority, which has some kind of an organization called Lake Protection Committee now, which is basically of recommendatory nature, and the Development Authority itself doesn't have a lot of regulatory powers. So you have a body that is advising a body which actually doesn't have any powers to do much, That's the weird situation now. So the Lake Protection Committee. So, but they have been trying to put together the data, and after all this pressure on them, they have now actually hired a consultant to produce a reliable, authenticated, certified data set on what the full tank levels would be, where they are located, and so on and so forth. So some amount of recycling of old data, some amount of field work to check it. The idea is that if they push it out into the public domain, then the public can keep checking, double checking, cross. So there are two different approaches to this. One is to say that the government should own some data and then we'll keep challenging it. Another is to say that the public can think about how to create new knowledge bases, try and figure out new discursive formations, for example. For example, when I'm saying that we're thinking about the catchments, what the catchment gives you is the ridge formation, right? The highest point around the entire catchment. If we know that ridge contours, then you can actually try and figure out where it is being destroyed. Because the entire Serlingapalli area, the story is that we have started digging into all the rock formations. You remove the rock formation and then you build there. And that's how it happens. So these are the broad contours of what has been done until now. I think there's lots of work that needs to be done. We need to innovate. We need to figure out new technologies. We need to figure out what are the worthwhile issues to crowdsource information on, how to do that, and so on. That's the kind of work that we will hopefully be able to get to do in the next day and a half.
Professor Oslekar from IIT Bombay and Department of St. Xavier Institute. They were working on urban Mumbai commons right from 1970s. I mean, there could be good sources for you to look into because they have filed PIL way back in 1975 regarding the columnar structures in the Juhu beach. That now it's an heritage structure. I don't know whether still it remains or not. But for a Mumbai man, it is very difficult to get any data. Because as far as the Ministry of Defense is concerned, 200 kilometers from the coastal line, the data is highly secret. So you cannot get any survey of India maps for Mumbai. You are only left with an option of looking into Google Maps and purchase the satellite maps from NRSA. I think these Oslekar from IIT Bombay and St. Xavier, they may have some help to you.
I just wanted to add a couple of points to what has already been said. We do have somebody in this room who does know a fair amount about the commons in Bombay, Prasad Shetty, who has been actually involved in generating data on heritage and environmental hazards in Bombay. He has actually been sitting on the data.
Actually, somebody going to the Supreme Court and Supreme Court ordering the Maharashtra government to make an environment plan for one place called Dahanu, which is north of Bombay. So Maharashtra government asked the Urban Development Department to make an environment plan. The Urban Development Department said, we've been in the business of making plans so far. We have no idea what an environment plan looks like. Let us send it to the Environment Department. And the Environment Department said that, we've been knowing environment, but we have no clue how to make a plan. So it kind of did this football for some time. And finally, I think Maharashtra government did some quick thing and submitted as a. But what came out of it was there is no framework in planning to think through environmental features. I mean, modern planning, I'm talking of the way it is practiced at least in Maharashtra. So that is when we set up this project, which was to look at environment features. That time we used to call it environment assets. So it was not only these water bodies, but a number of environment assets, including water courses, hills, coastline features, water bodies, open spaces. And since plan was about, we could legislate and regulate land, so we had to connect everything to land. So the first task was to set up a inventory of environment features, under which we recorded some 3,000 sites as environmentally sensitive, environmentally critical features. Each of these sites were visited, were documented in not, I mean, there was no measure drawing done, but it was documented in a preliminary way, which was kind of, which would be useful to kind of at least prioritize, certain projects in them. Regarding water bodies, there were many people doing many surveys. The municipal health department was doing surveys because it had malarial, problems, so it had to kind of disinfect water bodies. So they had a list. The collector had a list. The revenue department had a list of the WWF, Worldwide Fund, had a list of water bodies. So in all, we found something like 140 water body sites in Mumbai. Each of them were visited, and at the moment there are 103 which are actually, which have water and which can be called as water bodies. So now I think the state government is taken things quite seriously, and also the municipal corporation has taken things quite seriously, and in the development plan it will integrate, hopefully. But it is, it is still a football game.
Sanitized data. They release data sometimes for scientific purposes, which is kind of expensive, but there are research bodies which can access that. I think the challenge in an urban context actually is that the surface of the earth, which has been treated systematically as one that doesn't have any gradient. I mean, Indian urban society is probably one of the largest societies in the whole world which believes that the earth is flat. We have to be the biggest flat earth society in the whole world. What we do is to think of it as a flat surface on which we can simply draw property boundaries. That's the only thing our cities and our planners do, right? So what happens is that a lot of features which are actually located in the Survey of India maps 10 years ago, they do a decennial, how do you pronounce it? Decennial? Every 10 years, they're supposed to do a survey, a resurvey of each area. They don't do it. I mean, they haven't been doing it for the last 20 years. Yeah, the terrain maps are very unreliable. Terrain maps are extremely unreliable. And what we have been seeing is that the contours have changed systematically. So what we can do right now is to actually try and see if we can get reliable elevation modeling data and then work with that, reconstruct from that. But what historical maps are useful for a completely different purpose.
So there are one more maps called OpenStreetMaps. It's an open source thing, and I guess we can get a lot of information from that. It's open, so you can actually download the whole information, and it's mapped by people like us. So I think it's very reliable.
Don't say that this source is unreliable. I often hearing that, Survey of India is unreliable. But I tell you, even to this day and coming 1 century, Survey of India is most reliable data on this earth. But only thing, as time and again Mr. Anant was trying to convince and bring it to your notice, we should all understand the purpose, the objective, and the scale at which we would like to work. That is most important. Survey of India restricts itself to 1 inch to equal to 4 miles. If I am working at this school, my scale is different. And the second aspect, where Google, when started intervening in the maps, it focused more on cultural mapping. You see these maps all over the world. Wherever you go, you pick up a San Francisco map and you can see all the cultural features. And I think only one institute in Hyderabad started working on it. This is a larger debate. As Anant rightly pointed out, we need to have a separate session in understanding how do we utilize the mapping and the sources. Thank you, sir.